So hello and welcome to Steps to Maths, and today we're going to be looking at the rounding of decimal numbers. So as you can see in the video here, we're trying to measure a blue line using a ruler. So you can probably just about see the blue line, and you can see the difficulty that we have with measuring it. Depending how good your vision is, depending how good your camera is when it's trying to measure it, you're going to see it's somewhere. It's going to be about 4.1234. Might be a little bit more than that. So the question now is, what number am I going to pick? Am I going to pick 4.4 or am I going to pick 4.5? Well, it's quite hard for you to see here in the camera picture, but it seems to be very slightly closer to that little line. That's the fourth decimal line, the fourth millimeter away from 4 centimeters. So we've got 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter, 4 centimeters, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and a tiny bit millimeters. So we're only going to count 4 millimeters, which we're going to say that's 4.4 centimeters. So this is exactly the same as when we're rounding in tens, except this time we're counting in 0.1. So we go 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. If I'm more than halfway between 4.4 and 4.5, then I'll go to 4.5. If I'm less than halfway, I'll stay at 4.4. So you can begin to see why we round to 4.4. There's no point saying 4.42. It's almost impossible to even see that it's 4.4 in this particular picture. So we have difficulty with the accuracy of our measurements, but and that's generally quite a good reason that we'd want to round. So we're going to say this is 4.4, and I'm going to give you lots of questions for rounding to 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, or 3 decimal places. So let's have a look at rounding to decimal places with a particular number. Now, as we saw with the ruler, sometimes it can be very hard to measure things, but when we do calculations, sometimes we come up with numbers like 4.28563, simply because as we calculate and we get fractions, we get more and more decimal places. So it would be sensible now, instead of saying 4.28563, to round this to 1 decimal place. So imagine we'd be measuring things with our rulers and we knew we only had 1 decimal place of accuracy. This is our first decimal place. This is the decimal point. This is the first decimal place. This is going to be the second decimal place. And this will be the third, this one here will be the third decimal place. So our question here, looking at this, it looks like a 4.2. So would we say 4.2 in this question? What we do is we look at this next value here. So we know that 0.28, when we're measuring, here's 4, there's 4.1, there's 4.2, here's 4.3. Now 4.28 in this picture would be 4.2 and most of the way to 4.3. So 4.21, 4.22, 4.23, 4.24, 4.25, 4.26, 4.27, 4.28, 4.29, 4.3. That's how you count when you're counting in 1 decimal place. So you can see that the counting bit here between 0.2 and 0.3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then this one. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then this one. So it's our distance across. So this, the next decimal place, tells us how far we've gone from this decimal place, from this point, to this point. Okay, so this next decimal place, 8, tells us that we've gone most of the way from 0.2. We're nearly at 0.3. So we're not going to say 4.2, we're going to say 4.3. Now, let's have a look at 2 decimal places. And exactly the same thing applies. We've got 4, some big number here. This is 4.1. This is when we've zoomed in on our picture. This is 4.2. This is 4.8. And this will be 4.28, and this will be 4.29. And again, let's zoom into this picture here and see what we have. In this picture, we're going to have 4.28 and 4.29. The question is, am I closer to 4.28 or 4.29? If I ask for something to the second decimal place, that means I'm counting here. I'm going 4.28, 4.29, 4.26, 4.27, 4.28, 4.29. And the question again is, am I closer to 4.28 or 4.29? And as before, and as everything we have, the question is, have I gone more than halfway? So we look at the next decimal place. 5. If there's a 5 there, and we know it's a 563, we know as soon as you hit 5, we've gone more than halfway. We're closer to this side. So this is a 5, so it means I'm closer to this side. If it was a 4, I would know I was closer to this side. Okay, so that's what we do. So 4.34 was to 1 decimal place. To 2 decimal places, it's going to be 4.29. Because we were closer to 4.29 than to 4.28. How do I know we were closer? Well, I looked at the next decimal place, which was a 5. As soon as you hit 5, you've gone more than halfway. And so you've gone more than halfway from 4.28 to 4.29, and you're on to 4.29. Let's have a look at 3 decimal places. Now, as we already know from the ruler, it'd be very difficult to measure 3 decimal places. So for something like centimeters, it'd probably be crazy to say 3 decimal places. But so we do have accurate instruments that can measure things right down to 3 decimal places, to sort of parts of a millimeter. So let's have a look at 3 decimal places. So again, we're going to be at 4.28 something. Our number is 4.285. And what we're counting in is we're going 4.283, 4.284, 4.285, 4.286. So we have 4.285 so far. We have 4.285. The question is, are we closer to 4.286 or 4.285? If we've gone more than halfway, we know that we changed to 4.286. How do we know that we've gone more than halfway? We look at the next decimal place. If the next decimal place is 5 or bigger than 5, then we go on to the next number. So it's 4.286. So we want to know, was it 4.285 or 4.286? We look at the next decimal place. It's bigger than 5. It's 5 or more. So we go on to the next decimal place. Okay, so you get the idea here in the picture that if you've gone more than halfway, this is just a little zooming in of this. You get the idea. Okay, so that's all you have to do. If you're asked for 1 decimal place and we write 1 dp, we're looking for 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. We look at our original number and say, have we gone more than halfway? We look at the next decimal place and say, is that 5 or more? That's more than 5, so we go to 4.3. For 2 decimal places, we go 4.28. We look, that's the second decimal place, is the 8. We look at the next decimal place. If it's 5 or more, we count up to the next one, 4.29. Okay, and one more little example. 4.283. To 1 decimal place, that will be 4.3, because this is bigger than 5. It's 5 or more. To 2 decimal places, it'll be 4.28, because we look at the next decimal place. This is less than 5, so it's that symbol means less than, so that's a less than halfway to the next digit. So for 2 decimal places, we're counting 4.26, 4.27, 4.28. The question is it 4.28 or 4.29? This tells me that it's less than halfway to 4.29, so I stay at 4.28. Okay, so do the questions and the best of luck. So I just should note I made a mistake there during the video and I said 4.2, I was counting 4.21, 4.22, 4.23. This of course is 4.11, this is 4.12, 4.13. So 4.21 should be here, 4.22, 4.23, 4.24, 4.25, 4.26, 4.27, 4.28, 4.29 and 4.3. So 4.28 would of course actually been here. So my apologies and my mistake. I was saying it was here. It is of course after 4.2 because it's bigger than 4.2. So 4.28 is between 4.2 and 4.3. The question that we had in general was it more than halfway? It is more than halfway. So we're counting 4.1, 4.2, more than halfway, so we count to 4.3. So my apologies, a little mistake there. I was counting here in the picture and I should have been counting here. So just a little note there in case that's confusing. My mistake is causing problems there. Okay, so I hope that makes sense now.